Hey everyone, Pete Calandra here. On today's video, we're going to be taking a contextual look at a recent release from Bunker Samples titled Iremia. Let's take a look at their website to get a little more information on it, and then we'll get into the review. Intimate Viola Iremia. These are soft solo textures, and right now until December 10th of 2023, it's on sale for $49 US, and then it goes into $99. It requires the full version of NI Contact 6 or later. So Iremia is a Greek word for tranquility, peace, serenity, and quietness. Iremia is dedicated to exploring the most intimate and quiet side of a solo viola, captured in stunning detail with a unique set of microphone positions. The combination of the melancholic and dark sonority of the viola, playing extremely softly and recorded very, very close, has resulted in a virtual instrument of incredible intimacy, beauty, and humanity. And we'll see how that plays out over the course of the contextual review. They've got these engaging sustains, moving textures, organic swells. It's got a clean and simple GUI, which it really is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mic positions inside the viola. Super close, close, mid-distance, and far. But I don't think this is recorded in a very large studio because it's not like some of the other libraries that record in a huge hall. There is space from the far mic, but it's not like it's up in the gallery somewhere 100 feet away. It's still a very intimate and detailed sound. Just a little bit of a disclaimer here. Bunker Samples sent me an NFR copy of this library to preview, but they've had no say in the content of this video, nor will they have seen this video prior to its launch on YouTube. If you like this video, give a thumbs up. For more content, please subscribe, and to be notified, ring that bell. There'll be timestamps down below for navigation, and please leave comments. I'd love to hear what you've got to think about this library. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and let's get right into it. In this particular composition, there are 11 instances of Iremia instantiated, and they appear from top to bottom in the order in which they enter on the timeline. You can pretty much see that just by looking at it. This one was done to a click, so it's not quantized, but I played everything into a click, so we'll be able to look at notation. There is volume automation using expression, and on some of the crossfade patches, there is also modulation. But I haven't done anything crazy with automating the mic positions and the ADSR. It's just the sound in. It sounded really great. I picked a particular mic mix that I liked for all of these. So let's solo Trem Bursts, then we'll solo the next track, and then we'll listen to them together and see how they combine. So here we go, just the Trem Bursts. One thing that's interesting about working with performances like this is that they're recorded in a way where each note is playing a very similar timing, so that if you do a reverse pyramid like I've done here with each voice of the chord entering one beat after the next, you'll catch the trem burst in a different part of the cycle as the next note comes in, so that the trem bursts are actually overlapping and sort of waving as they come in and out. So if I play that note there, if I play two notes simultaneously, you see how they're synchronized, right? But if I play one note, the next note, and then the following note, and I'll mute my mic so you can hear it better, you'll hear how they sort of overlap, and it creates a really beautiful effect. Here we go. That's a really interesting way to use this particular patch. Let's take a listen to the next part, which is the sustain normale, and that's at 3P dynamic, so it's incredibly quiet. And you'll see here that I'm just playing long held notes. So we'll solo that out, and then we'll listen to that together with the Trem Bursts. Here we go. It's really interesting. You get this really beautiful, very tender, and very sort of emotionally bare sound. It's very difficult to actually play an instrument that quietly and have it be under control. I think that's something that people need to understand. Now let's listen to the two of those together, the Trem Bursts and the Normale sustains. The Normale sustains is playing the top note of each one of these trichords, but it's coming in at a different point in the cycle. So it starts off with this note, and then it comes in here on the second bar of those phrases. So that's pretty cool. Really like the way that that sounds. This is the Fluctuating Trem Normale. So let me play a couple of notes here. All right, now let's listen to the part. Again, using that reverse pyramid, just stacking down instead of stacking up. Again, it creates these overlapping textures which give a lot of animation to the sound. Moving forward to the next sound, you have Random Rebow Normale. Let's take a listen to this part. It's single notes, and then we'll hear it in combination with the fluctuating trems. Again, really human, a lot of animation in the sound, a lot of sort of randomness, even though it will play similarly every time you hit the note. Where you place that note on the bar, on the beat of the bar, let's say, will have an effect on where that animation happens in the measure. Let's listen to that together with the flitting trem. Okay, so this is Random Rebow Concertino, and that would be this track here. Let's take a listen to that. You can hear that it's beautiful. The sound that comes out is beautifully played. It's delicate. Now, this one I've got a little bit different mic position. It's got the inside mic and it's got the far mic. So you get that really delicate intimacy of having the microphone that's inside the instrument. And you also get the benefit of having some perspective with the sound because the microphone is a little further away. So those combinations, you get the detail and the space, really. And everybody should know that a big part of the sound of an instrument that we are used to hearing is how that instrument sounds in a space, you know, and that's why the room that you record something in is so very important. All right, let's listen to that. No, actually, let's go on to the next track, the Concertino Vibrato Pulses, and then we'll listen to this section with all four of those instruments together. Okay, on this one, I've got the inside and super close. So that'll give yet a different perspective. So, you know, what's cool about this is that I have some panning that I've done here with MIDI, but also having perspectives be different, and you get the sense that the people are also placed in different parts of the room. So that's really a nice feature also. Let's take a listen to this, and then we'll listen to all four tracks combined. Another thing about this patch is that you'll notice that there's some reverb. So I've got the reverb send turned up, and we're using chamber A here. It's nice that you have all this stuff available inside of the Kontakt player so that you can capture all these effects without having to go outside of the sound. Okay, let's listen to those 4 tracks together and see what the aggregate sounds like. Really beautiful. You know, it sort of lends itself to the sort of contrapuntal writing that I worked on when I was an undergraduate student, species counterpoint, or choral, 4-part choral writing, except I did a boo-boo here with my parallel fifths. Just kidding. Right here. That's those 4 instruments together, a really beautiful sound. Let's move this sound like this a little bit. Okay, so now we're at the dynamic sustains patch, and I have selected sustain concertino, and it goes between triple P, double P, and single P. So let me just play a note on my keyboard, and I'll move the mod wheel up and down, and we can hear the different dynamics. Really nice. Let's take a listen to that in context, and here we've got this kind of a mix here with a little bit of the inside, mostly far, and about halfway with the close and the mid. Now, the next track is Trem Bursts, and you can see here that I've got something written in tenths. Let's take a listen to this, and then we'll put together the previous 4 tracks with these 2 newer tracks and hear how all of that works together. Okay, really beautiful. Now, just one thing to note here is that I have a major 10th going to a 9th with the bottom note held over, and then this F is held over and the C comes in. So that's sort of like a suspension, right? That resolves down to the 3rd. So this becomes the 4th of the C down to the 3rd. But aside from that, it's just straight 10th till the last. So let's listen to the 6 tracks that we just heard, and let's see about getting some notation up here. Let me point out some musical details here. This is not a theory lesson, but there are a few things I'd like to point out. I did talk about, inspiring this contrapuntal style of writing with the library. This track here, the second from the top, is in the bass clef or the F clef. And then all the rest of them are written in the G clef or the treble clef. So here I've got an interesting simultaneity, 5 notes. We've got C, G, G, C, and D, right? So it really contains just the pitches of a G suspended chord, but because I've got that C so prominently displayed in the bass, and then also doubled here, right, with this is a C and a G, and then the D is doubled on top, you really get a sense that that's some sort of a C chord, like a C2 or a mu chord, as some people like to call it, the Steely Dan kind of chord. It all works, everything sort of works together. So you get this kind of a... And then overlapping while these are sustaining, and notice how the G and the C are for 2 more beats here. This D moves down to an F, which really confuses the issue a lot. You get a suspended and a 2, right? Let's listen to that. C, F, G, C, D. And what's nice about this library is that since these are single instruments on each note, you can write a chord that thick and still have clarity to it. Now, moving forward here in this next bit, we've got a G in this area here, and then an A flat right below that. So you've got a half step here, but the reason that works is that you're surrounding that, or the shell that those 2 half step dyad is contained in, is a minor 10th. So you've got C and E flat. And this is sort of part of that intervallic harmony that I like to talk about, which I've made some videos on. You've got a C here and a G here, so that's a 5th. And then you've got an A flat here and an E flat here. That's another 5th. So 2 5ths, a minor 6th apart. C and G, A flat and E flat. And it makes a really nice texture. Okay, let's move forward here. Let's see what we got. Okay, so we're on to the last 3 tracks. So the first track, I'll play these all individually. I'll just keep the notation up like it is now. But the first track is Rebow Pulses Concertino, and I've got mostly inside, mid, and far with just a little bit of the close, and again some reverb on the far microphone. And I'll play a couple of notes and then we'll play the part. All of that activity happening at different times while I'm holding down notes that I've done that sort of reverse pyramid, or even when I stack notes going up, all of that motion, it makes it all sound random and very human. It's really a great effect. Okay, so let's listen to the Rebow Pulses there. Not doing much, just a few notes. There's so much activity inside of the note that you don't have to write different pitches that occur quickly rhythmically. You can just play a note and let it unfold on its own. That's one of the ways that real people play, and it's one of the things that you can't do with straight samples. You can't really program that with MIDI and have it sound anywhere near as authentic or as emotional as it does here with these samples the way they've been captured. Let's take a listen. On this next track, we've got the Fluctuating Tremelo here, and I'll play a few notes and we can take a listen to that, and then we'll listen to the part. Again, similar concept as the last one. All of these activities happening in held notes that start on different parts of the bar or on different beats give you a sense of all of this overlapping and waving of the sound. It's really cool. let's listen to this part, and then we'll listen to the bottom one, and then we'll listen to all three of them together. I am supplementing the dynamics of what's been played. In other words, the sound itself gets louder and softer, not with mod wheel, but with expression, just to help it out a little bit. Now, let's listen to the bottom track, which is Concertino into Normale. Right, so this is the crossfade. And again, I've got all microphones up here. So it's just a straight sustained, Concertino into Normale. So let's listen to this. It's just one note. It's a C. I believe that should be bass clef. Yes, it is. So it's just a C with a second octave here at the end. Let's take a listen to that. We'll put all three together. All right. Okay, now all three of those together. All right, I'm going to get the notation up so you can follow along, and we'll play the entire piece from the beginning to the end, and then I'll be back after that to give you my final thoughts on this library. We went through a long period of time in the development of orchestral or orchestra instruments sample libraries where big, bombastic, epic was what a lot of the libraries try to achieve. And then over the past few years, I've been noticing a trend in the opposite direction, which I think is really good, because you get these libraries like this one that have ways of capturing the instrument that you wouldn't normally expect. Nobody puts a microphone inside of a viola. It's like putting your ear right up against the sound hole. You know, it's a different perspective. You get almost like it's sounds that you just don't hear when you're far away from the instrument, or even 5 feet away from the instrument. They become present and they create a texture and a sound that's really interesting and unique. And then when you combine that with a lot of the performance techniques in a library like this, you have a set of sounds that if you are a clever and skilled composer, you can employ them into your music to give your sample-based performances a lot of human emotion that you can't really program as well with just straight samples. It's incredibly difficult to write simple, not simplistic, but music that's simple and direct and spare and have it be incredibly effective. It's almost easier in a way to write thick orchestrations with lots of notes playing and have that cover up what could possibly very well be banal and mediocre musical ideas, right? But when you have music that's just simple and only a few notes, to make those notes really say something to people is a real skill. And having libraries like this will help you in that endeavor. You know, it's interesting. When I was younger and I was playing piano full-time in the pit of Miss Saigon on Broadway, this is during the 1990s, I didn't think a lot of the music in the show was really interesting. There were some beautiful ballads and there were some things that I thought were really good, but there was a lot of mediocre music in the show. That's just my opinion. The show was certainly successful, but what I thought the creative team did to sort of cover that up was that the orchestrator, Bill Braun, wrote these incredibly complex and detailed orchestrations that really like made this music sound much more interesting than if you just broke it down into its individual elements, the chord progressions, the melodies, you know, all the stuff that makes a piece of music really interesting. When you strip all of the veneer away, what's left over? How interesting is that? How skilled is that? What's the craft of that? How does that affect you? You know, and it was sort of covered up. The lack of some of those details were covered up by the huge orchestrations and the big bombast and all the different sounds in the percussion booths of all these crazy Asian percussion instruments that they employed, and the sounds from all the keyboards, and just, you know, the doublings and the way that the orchestrations were made. So this type of a library will really be interesting to see what people do with it. You know, you have to up your game when you only have a few notes to play, right? So anyway, please like, subscribe, share. Thank you so much for watching. I love this library. Thumbs up to Bunker Samples, and I will catch you on the next one.